Good morning. It's Wednesday, it's the 3rd of June 2026, and everything that we talked about 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago is coming to fruition, and it's in plain sight, so it can no longer be ignored, and we can no longer be called conspiracy theorists because it's come true. But I'm sure we will find some more conspiracy theories to keep the third dimensional observers happy. However, I said 6, 7 years ago that Israel would be last, and Israel is being last, and it will be taken out by Iran. That's happening in plain sight, even though mainstream media is desperate to stop that information coming out, because mainstream media, of course, is controlled by Israel. But we're now seeing them in complete and utter panic mode, to such an extent that Israel has turned its attention away from Iran and said, we'll take on Turkey. Good luck with that one. I'm married to one. 95% perfect, 5% terrorist. You're up against a bit of war there, I can assure you, speaking from personal experience. Turkey's turned around and said, yeah, come on then. If you want to take us on, we'll make you a part of the Greater Turkey plan. Instead of your Greater Israel plan, we'll make you part of the Greater Turkey plan. And I believe them. I know the mentality of the Turks. These are very, very strong-minded people. They've been sat back watching what was going on with Iran. And it's very interesting that in these times, Israel's in panic like you've never seen before. And they're going, but they've got nuclear weapons. No, they haven't. It's the same playbook that you used with Iran, Iraq, all of these countries. This is your agenda. It's got nothing to do with fact. In fact, every observer that is independent is clearly stated there are no nuclear weapons. Iran's never had nuclear weapons, while Israel has had nuclear weapons. Iran has not, because there's a fatwa in place to prevent that ever happening. So stop your bullshit and your lies, or you probably just lie until you're taken out completely, because that's what you do. And you only have to look at Ben Gvir's face to realise how much trouble you're in. He's just realised that Trump is not his friend. Morning, Drew.
Good morning, Charlie. Good morning, everyone. Riots erupted overnight in several parts of the UK as public anger intensified following the death of 18-year-old Henry Nowak in Southampton. Demonstrators took the streets demanding answers, with clashes breaking out and police deployed to restore order. Now, critics say the case has not received the same level of political and media attention as George Floyd, raising questions about fairness, accountability and equal justice. As investigations continue, pressure is mounting on authorities to provide answers and restore public confidence. This story is developing. Charlie, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, this is a very sad case, because it's a very sad case if anybody loses their life. But it's very, very interesting that the focus of George Floyd within the British Parliament, he was mentioned many, many times in the British Parliament. And yet, in Henry's case, he was mentioned 3 times. And this is all part of the exposure. And it's very sad that a young man has to lose his life. There's no interest in young white men losing their life. There's no interest in that. It either has to be a Pakistani losing his life or a black man losing his life to get any attention. Now, I'm not a racist. I was actually born and brought up one, but I've learnt a very, very different view on life, that I treat everybody with respect, everybody, no matter what colour, what faith, but I will hold people accountable. But it's very, very clear in the United Kingdom, under a Labour government, and I state that the division is being stoked up on purpose to protect black and Asians over against ethnic whites. And that's wrong. Now, if you want equality, if that's what you want, then equality means equal. And very clearly, that's not happening. But I will say, on a positive note, that the police in the UK, without them knowing, and the military in the UK, without them knowing, have been infiltrated by good people who've been watching what's going on for the past 10 years. So we know the bad eggs and we know the good eggs. And the bad eggs, you'll be held accountable. So you're out there with your big bollocks because you've got yourself a baton, a gun and a taser. And you're out there bullying people. And in certain cases, in Henry's case, handcuffing him when he was dying until he died. You'll be held accountable. Not by me, by God. Judgment is coming on those people who are not doing the right thing. And it doesn't matter what faith you are. It has no impact at all what faith you are. There is good and bad in every single sector. It's down to you as an individual. Doesn't matter what church you go to, what mosque you go to, what synagogue you go to. It's you that God wants to save your soul. It's you. So just because you go to a certain place does not give you the right to think, oh, I'm safe. This is a personal link. My next story tickles me because it's the complete collapse of the UN. Donald Trump has pulled America out of the UN. And just by chance, that means he's pulled the US out of 66, interesting number, other organizations to do with climate change, the World Health Organization, the World Economic Forum. They're all part of the UN. But with the US pulling out, the biggest funder and financier of it, and China pulling out, and a couple of others, their time is running out. In fact, it's run out. And they will no longer cease to exist. Probably by next year. We're watching the complete dismantling of a corrupt system that was supposed to be there to protect people, but became a war machine. It's very interesting that when certain organization people get power, they get corrupted. And that's exactly what's happened with the UN. Drew.
Next up, New York. Critics of Mayor Zoran Mamdani's economic policies are pointing to reports claiming that 892 companies have left the state, taking an estimated $47 billion in income with them. Supporters argue the trend began long before Mamdani took office, while opponents say it highlights growing concern over taxes, regulation, and the cost of doing business. The debate over New York's economic future is only intensifying.
This is what happens when you let monkeys run cities and countries who haven't got a clue about business. When a fisherman goes fishing, he has to invest in bait. When you run a state, you have to encourage business to come. Going back 35 years ago, my godfather was encouraged to move his business to Ireland. They did. In return, they got zero tax for 10 years. But they had to employ locals, which they did. And it massively boosted the economy of Ireland. In New York, Mamdani's there. Radical policies, out of control spending, failed vision. The guy's never run a business in his life. He hasn't got a clue what he's doing. And this is all being exposed, but it has to be exposed for the world to see that these lefties, these people in power, haven't got a clue. None more so than in the UK. The people in Parliament right now, I've never seen a collection of more incompetent people in my life. Back in the 60s and 70s, you had some very, very strong-minded politicians. None more so than people like Tony Benn. Yeah, well, whether you love him or hate him, I don't care. This man stood up for what he believed in. Now, you've got a lot of little puppets in there, most of which, sadly, have very, very strange sexual preferences. I'll put it like that. Do your own research. You don't need me to tell you. Do your own research and you'll find out that you're dealing with at least 50% of the British politicians are involved in things they shouldn't be involved in. I'll leave you with that thought. That was the news on June the 3rd, 2026. The link is in the bio to learn out more about what's going on. And don't miss the Insiders Club with Q&A this evening. We'll see you there. Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.
So if you want to know the truth, come to charlieward.com and see real news daily. And join the Insiders Club, which is live on Wednesdays and Saturdays.
Global tensions are rising, markets are unstable, and currencies keep losing value. While governments print more money, smart investors are moving into physical gold and silver. Assets that have protected wealth for centuries. That's why more people are turning to Charlie's Gold to secure their future before the next financial shakeup hits. Don't leave your wealth exposed. Own something real, own gold and silver. Visit charlies.gold today.